Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's newsflash on the show. Trump has concealed details of his face-to-face encounters with Putin from senior officials in his administration. Why does he want to do that? Why can't you just let everyone know? We will discuss. Trump is also, he's touting his shutdown plan, but does he have a plan? How will he get out of now the longest shutdown in American history? The FBI has launched an investigation to determine if our president was a Russian asset, according to a new report from the New York Times. The possibility of a national emergency that Trump will declare to build the wall and kind of go around Congress. Julian Castro enters the race, and Democratic governors are pushing for universal health care individually within their states, in California, New York, other places like that, Colorado and Minnesota as well. So joining us now to discuss is David Langan. He'll be here all show to get through this news. David, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Spencer.
All right, good to have you back with us as always. So pretty much, and we know, if you don't know, David is one of our biggest skeptics who comes on the show of the Russia situation. So I want to tell him about what's going on right now with this latest story in the Washington Post that says President Trump has gone to extraordinary lengths to conceal details of his conversations with Russian President Vladimir Putin, including on at least one occasion taking possession of the notes from his own interpreter, instructing the linguist not to discuss what had transpired with other administration officials, current and former U.S. officials said. So this is back in his conversations back in Helsinki. Then Trump did so with a meeting with Putin as well in Hamburg that was attended by Rex Tillerson. So do you think it's a good idea? Do you think we should know what Trump is saying here with Putin? Should we know the details? Obviously not if anything's classified information, but should we get the idea of what's going on here?
Yeah, I see no reason why we shouldn't know. I have no idea. I don't think anyone has any idea what's in the mind of Donald Trump. So I kind of write that off to a little bit of media paranoia. The guy's, everything he does is covered end to end, just unabashedly and unashamedly partisan in most places. Yeah, I think what I would do if I were in his shoes, I would probably do the same thing. I would just say, you know what, we don't need to divulge all this because it's just going to be cannon fodder. I'm not, put it this way, I'm not shocked that he would try to keep some conversations he has with Russians under the, just under wraps.
So do you think there is some kind of controversial thing in there that will be seized on by a lot of people to say, oh, Trump is an associate with Russia in some way, or working with them in some way, or just more sucking up, kind of what I've seen?
According to half the population of America, that's already the case. So what's the difference?
Yeah, I mean, that is an interesting way of looking at it. You're still going to have people saying Trump's colluding with Russia either way.
Exactly. It doesn't much matter. It's almost a non-issue at this point.
Yeah.
All right. So we live in such an information overload era. And why can't anyone just sit and wait to see what comes out of Mueller's chimney? That's just sit on it, relax, just this breathless day-to-day reporting. If they move a comma in a statement, it's news. Just enough on it.
That is actually pretty interesting. That's very true, actually. But yeah, one of the things I think is it's very interesting is again, I do agree with you. Why can't people wait? And here on the show, we have not devoted that much time really to covering the every little day of the Russia investigation, because it just gets to a point where people are tired of it. And there's been Onion articles that says headlines that are Trump's associate's friend talked to this Russian banker's friend in the Cayman Islands or something like that. And that does seem like really what every story is. And after this story was published online, though, Trump said in an interview with late Saturday with Fox News host Janine Pirro that he did not take particular steps to conceal his private meetings with it. In fact, Jeff Bezos, the Washington Post owner, which he likes to do a lot.
Yeah.
He said he talked to Putin about Israel, among other subjects. Anyone could have listened to the meeting. The meeting was up for grabs. He said, I don't really know if it was totally up for grabs if he was not releasing information, but yeah, there's that story. And then we have on the other side, what I think is probably the more substantive story is the FBI launching an investigation to determine if Trump was a Russian asset. And so, according to the Times here, agents and senior FBI officials had grown suspicious of Trump's ties to Russia during the 2016 campaign, but held off opening investigation into him, the people said, in part because they were uncertain to proceed with an inquiry of such sensitivity and magnitude. But the president's activities before and after Comey's firing, James Comey, in May 2017, particularly two instances in which Trump tied the Comey dismissal to the Russian investigation, helped prompt the counterintelligence investigation aspect of the inquiry, people said. So yeah, pretty much that's what they did. They said, after Comey's firing, we are opening investigation. So what's your reaction to this story now?
If you were trying to fire someone because you had this tacit relationship with a foreign power, would you say it out loud? I mean, I think most of what Donald Trump says is stream of consciousness rambling. And let's be honest. Everybody's, unlike most presidents, nearly everybody has seen some of Donald Trump's speeches. His language capabilities are kind of limited when he's when he's speaking contemporaneously. He's of very short sentences. I guess it seems to me anyway that he encapsulates quite a lot into a short segment of speech, and then it's like a Rorschach test. You read into it whatever you want to.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I do think though he has in some graces like the Lester Holt interview. Like he's actually, you said like would he say it out loud? I think he in some cases he's actually come out and said it. He's tied them to each other very explicitly. He says like regardless of whatever happening, this Trump thing with Russia is made up fake news, and I wanted to fire him because of it. And I think that's hard to like really say. Oh, you could just read into it whatever you want, but when it's like it's kind of put there out on the table.
Yes, exactly, but in a way that he's meaning it, not in a way that everyone else is meaning it. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's a distinct difference between how this is my opinion, of course, how this president says what he means. He thinks he's saying what he means, but it's his speech is a little cloudy, a little muddled. It's when you read. I made a particular point of doing this over the last month, reading specifically what he says. A lot of sentence fragments, a lot of a little bit of run-ons, conflation of ideas in one sentence to the next. None of it's very clear. I mean, I think his personality is his biggest enemy.
Yeah, I mean,
in Washington, being on espousing anything conservative, and then not doing it clearly, is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes I do agree with you. It's sometimes can be really hard to like determine what he's saying. For example, I think back to when he was talking about MS-13 versus immigrants. He said like some people said he thought MS-13 were animals, and some people said he just thought all immigrants were animals. And right. Just based on the way he talks, I mean, it's really hard. You can make cases pointing in both directions.
That's exactly right, which is what the media will do.
Yeah, and sometimes it could be warranted, sometimes maybe a little less so. But I do think it is very sketchy. I do think there's also a pretty substantive case to make, like knowing the FBI, conservatives to this could just say the FBI should have like they're just doing a sour grapes over their guy Comey being fired, and knowing the FBI and the way they behaved recently, I mean, you can and just in the past, like that would be something that they would do. So
yeah,
I think
I agree. There is some of that. I try to look at both sides of that. I mean, I understand why you'd launch investigations into what used to be our biggest nemesis, involved with a sitting American president. But there's politics inside that bureau for sure. I mean, it just prima facie. When you look at statements of various people who were investigating Hillary Clinton and then later on investigating Donald Trump in the election, there's bias. People are people. Whether you work for the FBI or not, it's you have a bias. It could be attributed to a number of things, and everyone does a great job of making a mess of it all.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I don't think we'll ever know exactly the truth to any of that.
Although personally, I think it would be kind of a hard time to make the case really that that was the bias without any like substantive evidence. Like, I mean, I guess you could say the texts or the Lisa Page Peter stroke text. I mean, if I would need probably a little more evidence than that, just like really go out and say the entire FBI is biased, but against Trump.
I'm not saying that. No,
yeah, it's tough.
When you look at the Inspector General's report, it was pretty middle of the road. Clearly there was bias, their personal bias, but we didn't find any in official acts. I mean, I don't think there's any way to read this except everything is hyper partisan now. Every single thing. I mean, there is not a single issue that doesn't immediately distill into I'm on the right, you're on the left, you're a Nazi, you're a communist.
Yeah, it could be. But I think the main point people are missing is like what did we find in this so-called investigation here that we were doing, and I think that would be a lot more interesting if that was actually proved and they were able to find evidence against this, and then were they running it counter to the Mueller probe or like alongside the Mueller probe. It is interesting. So as the Times noted, few details have emerged of the counterintelligence investigation of Trump, which goes beyond allegations that Trump obstructed justice by firing Comey and attempted to thwart the Mueller probe. The types of investigation often take years to conduct and infrequently result in arrests. So yeah, there definitely are multiple red flags here. So obviously the 2016 news conference where Trump asked Russia to hack Hillary Clinton's emails. I think that was more of a tongue-in-cheek thing than anything else. But
exactly.
His cozy stance with Putin
in front of millions of people. Like either he is the most brilliant, spy on the planet, or he's just a guy that speaks extemporaneously, and that's the end of that. I mean, I have trouble buying. Listen, until someone shows me direct proof, like Donald Trump taking $1 million in a suitcase in a men's room for something.
Yeah,
I'm just not buying.
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten any kind of a smoking gun yet. And whether it's from this so-called, like the FBI counterintelligence investigation, I think it's just like not really going to do too much. There are a bunch of red flags there. I definitely say that for sure. I wouldn't count that news conference among them, though. He's changing the Republican Party's convention platform on Ukraine. And I mean, this very well could be that he took a lot of meetings with the Russians and just didn't get any return because he just kind of got sweet-talked into it by a bunch of people. But the fact that they have done substantive moves that would end up benefiting Russia, and sometimes, like, for example, the pulling out of Syria, which I do think was a good decision, but, it benefited Russia, and if we find out they were doing that because they wanted to benefit Russia, which we haven't yet, I think would be a big deal. But here's the thing, we just still haven't. And the Mueller report, or whenever it's going to come out, I think that's the only time where we should really be truly reporting on the story is like, this is so big, this happened,
Yeah, I know, and the truth is, for every piece of evidence you could find where that looks like Donald Trump favored Russia and courted favor, you could find other instances where he just didn't. He just kind of beat them soundly. When he launched. Every Democrat on the planet was thrilled to see Tomahawk missiles flying into Syria over an alleged chemical attack.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there again, it's